Thankfully, the international break is over and QPR are back as the action returns with an away match against Sheffield Wednesday. It may only be the fifth league match of the season, but it's already our second trip to the Steel City, and we'll preview the trip to Hillsborough shortly. But we've had 2 weeks to bask in the joy of the 2-1 win over Luton in our last game. What a night that was, Dave.
Yeah, it was great to win there, wasn't it? It was kind of I thought the performance summed up our season. We were really good in some points and really quite poor in others. But it was one of them where I thought Cifuentes kind of changed the game with his subs. We were kind of drifting a little bit and he made changes. He brought Smith on, Dembele went in the middle, and we just looked a lot better. And getting those goals in quick succession, Luton didn't seem to have an answer. I think we said it before. Maybe it was a good time to play them, considering they're probably used to losing a lot and they need to snap out of that a little bit. It was a great night to get that result, and it's put us in, made it quite a good start to the season after it didn't look too clever before the Luton game.
What have you made of the first month as a whole?
I think it's been all right. I think I've said all along, I think we'll get better as the season wears on. So I wasn't expecting a great deal at the start, but I think we've done pretty well. We've only lost one game, and even that we could have got something out of if we'd have defended a little bit better. I think it's been promising. I still think we'll probably be finish around halfway. I'm not expecting playoffs or anything like that, but you never know. You look at every year, when the season starts, you see the other teams, you realise it's not that great, this league, is it? There's some good teams, but there's no one amazing. So you never know. If you put a run together, we could do quite well.
Yeah, we might be wrong, but to me, the early evidence is that the league is there for the taking for anybody this
Mm.
season. It doesn't look as hard, certainly not as hard as last year. I think our start has been promising. You said that word as well, because clearly we can improve quite a lot, yet we've already been pretty good in patches. And of course, we've done it all without our best player as well, Ilias Chair, still unavailable. The prospect of him coming back in hopefully gives us lots of optimism. Back to Luton for a second. I mean, the Nardi save was a key moment at 1-0. That was a massive moment in any game. But the whole night for me just felt like one of those early season, like galvanizing moments, because there's lots of new players out there still getting a feel for the club. For them to have that moment with the fans, you could hear how vociferous the QPR crowd could be. The players got a feeling of that. It was just perfect timing. And if you watch the celebrations back, look at the likes of Varane, Nardi, they're loving every moment out there. And it was just a great way to head into the international break. And we usually talk about individual players later in the show, but I wanted to get straight onto the performance of Michael Frey because it was arguably the best all-round striker performance I think QPR have seen since when?
A while. I would say the way he linked play and held the ball up, you've probably got to go back to Zamora in that Premier League year he played for us and did it. But probably before that, you've got to go back to Helgeson. I thought the performance was reminiscent a bit of Helgeson. I'll say now, I don't think Fraser's good as Helgeson, but it was that sort of performance where he was just really strong up front. He held the ball up and he brought these attacking players into the game. He got Dembele and Smith on the ball around the box. So second half we were around their box. Even the start of the game, I thought Frey did that really well, and obviously he took his goal really well. And I wasn't expecting this from him. I thought he'd do okay. I thought he'd do better this year, but not quite as good as he's been. He's looked really good the first few games, I think, and he's getting stronger. And that's possibly why they didn't enter the market for an extra forward after Dykes went. Hopefully he can keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually a hard question. It's the best striker performance since when's it been? I actually knew I was going to ask you that and still haven't really got an answer on when it is. But I think we've had obviously strikers score a couple of goals in a game, but it was his all-round performance, the hold-up play, the pressing, like you just said. I was thinking Heider Helgeson as well. I remember Sebastian Polter once gave a very good performance against Leeds on the opening day once, but it's rare we get such an all-round performance from a striker. And you're right to say about Michael Frey. He's settled now. And it's exactly the example why we need to give all the other new players time, because it could be 3, 6, 12 months before we see the best of them. And the win against Luton moved QPR into the top half of the table for the first time in nearly 600 days, dating back to Neil Critchley's reign in January 2023. And there's another 5 league matches now before the next break. And I think on paper, they're more favourable than our opening fixtures. So if we can keep the aim maybe to just tick along as we have been, see where we are at the next international break, keep the momentum going, I think the club will be in a really good place. And those 5 matches start against Sheffield Wednesday. Now, they're a team we, of course, let ourselves down against last year. They were one of only 3 teams who beat QPR home and away. QPR, of course, letting a victory slip away in the last few minutes in this same fixture up at Hillsborough. Wednesday have somewhat fallen off a cliff since the opening day. They progressed to the round 3 of the Carabao Cup, but in the league, they haven't even scored since the opening day, conceding 9 in the last 3 league games. In the last match, they lost 3-0 to Millwall, and Millwall hadn't won themselves up to that point, which shows it was not a great result at all. Their manager said after that Millwall game, cheap goals conceded, and we've got nothing up front. And I saw a quote from one of their fans that said, and this is direct quote, I doubt you'll find any championship team that will have 3 games back to back as bad as those 3 this season. Appalling management and dreadful football. So, Dave, do you have any idea what's gone wrong for them since the opening day?
I mean, it has come out of the blue because they finished last season so well, similar to us, to stay up from the position they were in was incredible. And I watched their opening game, although Plymouth were dreadful on the day, they looked good, and you thought, they could be a decent side this year, but seems to have come out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know if it's trying to integrate a lot of new players into the team, but they have been poor the last few games. It's been a bit of a surprise. I expected a lot more of them. I'd love to give you an answer as to why it's happened. I hope it continues, but it does seem a bubble out of the blue, that one.
Yeah, because the opening day wasn't a surprise, like you say. Everyone thought they'd be well. It's the surprise has been the result since. It looks like a case of the manager wanting to play a certain way now. So he played a certain way to survive. Now he's trying to have it his way, and he's having teething problems. Lots of transfers in and out, like you said. I think they've basically had a whole team's worth of players out and as many coming in. And I actually spoke to one Wednesday fan to try and find an answer. And he said they've changed formation from last season. And the general consensus amongst their fans is it doesn't suit the players. Playing with 4 at the back is what they've been doing. And the fans want them to go back to 3 at the back straight away. Also a feeling from the fans that the squad's a bit lightweight, too many similar players. So after losing 3 in a row, do you think Danny Roll will react and change formation for this game, which could then test QPR in a way maybe we haven't expected?
Quite possibly. I think the break that we've had does give teams a chance to kind of reset and see what's gone wrong and then maybe change things. So he does seem quite an adaptable manager. He was one of them that come in and did well and adapted well to the league last year. And, like I said, to keep them up from the position they were in was miraculous, to be honest. But, I mean, I imagine he probably will change it. I mean, it clearly hasn't worked. I mean, Millwall are not a great side. They've been struggling a bit, and to lose 3-0 to them, that's a really poor result. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does change it and, try and be a bit harder to beat and try and get some results on the board again.
Yeah, they only had 1 shot on target, so it usually facilitates a change when something like that happens. And if QPR have done the homework, they should be aware that he could change it and have a plan for that. And what we have to expect if he plays is Barry Bannon to try and run the show. We've got to do a better job on him than we did last season when we just let him do whatever he wanted. One extra thing to note as well is that Jamal Lowe has now moved there. So he's a good bet for you, the former QPR loan player, to score against QPR, because we seem to get one of them every season. So that could be a good bet for this weekend. Let's move on to QPR. And we've already touched on it, but we are now hard to beat again, aren't we? 5 games unbeaten. It's already now over a month since we lost on the opening day. And even that was against West Brom, who look a decent side this season, now up in 2nd place. The solid foundations we spoke about so much in pre-season, they definitely appear to be back, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I think Colback's made a big difference coming in alongside Field. I think they've kind of got a good partnership going in there, and we're a bit tougher to beat. One issue has been, I think it's showed a lot in the Luton game, was dealing with crosses. I think we do look a bit panicky when balls come in our box. But I think that's something they can iron out. They've shown before that they can deal with that. So I think that's just something that they'll work through in the next few weeks. But yeah, we do look a lot more solid. And going forward, we look a lot more exciting, especially with like Dembele when he plays in the number 10 role. He looks very exciting. And that's kind of the difference from last year. We look like we have a goal threat this year where we haven't really in the past.
Yeah, we're back to conceding only 1 goal a game, which is a key thing, which was kind of the bedrock of how we survived last season. And if we can cut out conceding from the set pieces, like you just said, we could be flying. Because we're now into September, the 9th month of the year. We've only lost 7 league games this year, which it's crazy from where we were before. And we've still not lost back-to-back league games since January. So all good signs. The transfer window is, of course, closed since we last did a show. Only 1 further signing, which was Harrison Ashby, a right back from Newcastle, who I don't think was on anyone's radar. And Reggie Cannon was then released to facilitate him coming in. Are you surprised it wasn't a left back we signed rather than a right back?
Yeah, I thought they'd maybe look at a left back, but to be fair to Powell, he's done since the first game. He's been really good since the first game, and he's one of them players you can usually rely on. He's like a 6 out of 10 most weeks. Sometimes he's better. You know, so I can kind of see why they went with the right back instead. I think Dunn's done quite well to start the season, but you probably do need long term. You're looking at a different sort of right back if we're going to try and play a bit more attacking this season. So I think this at least gives him the option. He's got two different ways of playing with his fullbacks now. So I'd be interested to see if he starts weekend.
Yeah, for me, it is one sign I don't really understand, especially when we consider Everton Santos has barely got a look in at right back yet either. In terms of left back, like you say, Pal, they're obviously just relying on him having another injury-free season. Once Fox is back, obviously they've got cover there, and in an emergency, Colback, Clark Salter, Sam Field, Jimmy Dunn, they could all be a stopgap. So arguably they can get by. I'm just surprised they brought in a right back rather than a left back. What did you make of Reggie Cannon departing? Was it a surprise?
No, I mean that was an odd one. It was quite a promising signing when he come in, but I mean he's not really played since February, is he? He was dumped out the side, and Cifuentes showed if he weren't having you, you don't hang around. You saw like Kakai and Dizel had one too many poor games last year, and they were never seen again. And it was the same with Cannon. He was a decent player, but obviously he's got a lot of issues going on with his former club, and there's legal issues going on with him. So it's probably best that they cut ties with him. But it was a shame because he seemed quite promising at first.
Yeah, on paper, we were all excited about him coming in. I think Marty Cifuentes, he shipped him out after the Stoke game, didn't he? Gave him a chance on the last. He gave him a chance on the last day against Coventry, and was kind of at fault for one goal. And I think that was the end for him. He is quite brutal when it with like say. The only other debate, and you kind of touched on it before, we were talking about Michael Frey, but Lyndon Dykes left. We kind of thought they'd bring in another striker. Why do you think they haven't?
I can only think it's a financial thing. Why they haven't brought one in? You saw like how much money that Stansfield went to Birmingham for. Like obviously the price of the forwards was possibly a bit too much. Maybe they think they can get through to January with what they've got, and then maybe add more then if they need to. But I was a little bit surprised they didn't try and get a third forward in after Dykes went. To be honest, I did think they'd try and do something, but it doesn't look like they did. They were going to.
Yeah, I think the only problem is maybe another club, especially a Premier League club, isn't really going to loan you a striker to sit as third choice on the bench. And with only playing one up front, as long as Salah and Frey stay fit, then we're absolutely fine, aren't we? And I agree. They'll probably come back to it in January, depending where we are in the table.
Yeah.
In terms of the team for this one, we started at Luton with Field, Colbeck, and Madsen in the centre, with Madsen further forward. Are you expecting to see the same?
I think he might do. I think it works quite well, and Madsen he can go over to the left if needed. So I think he might do the same again in midfield. Try and make us solid and hard to beat because I say Sheffield Wednesday, but on a bad run, they're going to want to come out the blocks and get on top of us. I think we can try and keep it tight early on and frustrate them. So I think he probably will go with them three again. Yeah, they've done pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. If it was me, I would stick with those three because we know from last season that Sheffield Wednesday like to press very aggressively. So to have three in midfield just offers that little bit of solidity and try and get some control in the game. It was Karamoko, then Bailey, and Alfie Lloyd who started on the wings at Luton. I'm not sure Lloyd will get the nod again for this one. What about you?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think that left side is a bit of an issue with Chair still out. So I don't think he kind of knows who to put there. He's kind of rotating a little bit there. Maybe he'll play Dembele there and start Smith on the right and try and do it that way. Personally, I want to see Dembele through the middle, but I'm not sure he will do that with the options we've got. That's probably someone that's going to come when Chair comes back. But yeah, I do think that left side's a bit of an issue for us. We can't seem to nail that down at the minute.
Yeah, it's an issue, but we've got obviously Saito, Anderson, Smith. At least they've got options, which is something we didn't have in the past. I do agree with you that Dembele looks very exciting playing centrally as a 10, but I expect he'll still be on the right wing for a while until we get everyone back. But it could be any combination of those attacking midfield options, and it feels good. So that to me is a positive sign. And obviously, some of our options we have coming off the bench now, you feel are sometimes better than the people who have started. So again, something that we've not seen previously for a while at QPR. And it's prediction time to finish. And our predictions this season so far have been absolutely hopeless. So take anything either of us are about to say with a pinch of salt. But what do you reckon this time, Dave?
Yeah, it's gone well for me this year. So I think this would be a tight one, a difficult one, because they're going to want a reaction after the last few games. But I think we can get something there. I'm going to go with another draw. I think maybe a 1-1 there. I think we can get something there. Cifuentes has had a few weeks with the players, and I'm expecting a decent performance and at least a point up there.
Yeah, QPR should be heading there confident, but like you just alluded to, their managers will have spent 2 weeks building them up for a big performance. We did struggle against them last season, as we said, but again, hopefully Martí Cifuentes has learned a lot from those performances and wants to prove a point. Sheffield Wednesday, I should say as well, they face Luton and West Brom in the 2 matches after us. So on paper, they're going to be targeting this as perhaps their best chance for points in September. So that is a factor. Certainly won't be easy. Overall, I think we can sneak it 2-1 if we get the 45 minutes of QPR that we've been getting. Second half at Sheffield United, second half at Luton, but for the whole game, we can win this game. Let us know your predictions, as always, in the comments. Thanks for everybody who's been commenting so far this season. Brian and George will be back to preview the midweek Carabao Cup 3rd round tie against Premier League Crystal Palace. So that's an exciting one to look forward to next week. Then we've got back-to-back London derbies because it's Millwall next weekend, which we'll be previewing. Hopefully, we'll still be in the top half and still in the cup by the time we reconvene next week. And until then, come on, you R's.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.